So we did mention DAO, like you're tiptoeing around DAO. So for our audience, I think some clarity there will be interesting. We also mentioned a little bit about progressive decentralization. So let's just double tap on how you're thinking. Again, nothing over here is financial advice or done and dusted in paper. We're still exploring, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So how is the Farcana team thinking? I'm again thinking. I emphasize thinking about DAOs.
Exactly. With my pleasure. So I really love that part because, look, we have the good part about our stage is that you already have some experience to learn from different companies and IPs who tried to do this. So what we have learned is in the Web3 space, you have so far mostly one-sided experience with DAO, where DAO participants actually vote and participate in ecosystem from financial upwards and like upsides, right? So from financial incentives, they're thinking, okay, what will give me the best financial upside? And that's how it happens. And that has been kind of a bottleneck as well. It's good and bad at the same time, as everything, right? You always has pros and cons. And with that, companies and IPs struggled a little bit, where sometimes you need to give up, let's say, short-term financial upside to have long-term success and to create something, to do something. But after the voting, sometimes happens that it's not happening because let's say the holders are a little bit aware, the market conditions is not good. So that is one part of the DAOs that we know. But there also has been very successful cases where actually the DAO is like progressed with the years.
Progressive decentralization.
Yeah, progressive decentralization, right? So when it actually work out very well, and IP is actually 10 times bigger than it was at the beginning. So what we want to do here is to use both of it. So we want to have at some point a DAO who is a DAO of the holders of the main assets, who's voting for, let's say, mainly for the topics that have financial upside or downside in the future, yep. Right? So, but at the same time, we will have a DAO, a council, right, of the most active players. So when I was starting, I explained about the most important thing, that pretty much all the titles have mid-core gaming audience, which is not necessarily the biggest audience, but which is the most valuable audience, who put most of the time, most of the energy, skills, and even financial value to the titles, to the games, but not getting anything out of it. So Farcana not only trying to change it and give them value, but at the mature point, we want to switch to the DAO of the most active users, players, who gonna be deciding on the content, right? So as I mentioned, so these people, after some milestone of your IP, you actually can give to the biggest core of your product, player core, right? Give a freedom to decide what is the next content, what you want developers to develop next, and what you want to get next. So these players gonna decide, these DAO gonna decide on both things, on financial
and the
future
game content.
And the game content, which is more important.
Yeah. So I think let me just summarize it for our audience. So over here, there's a lot of nuance. Like, one of the issues with DAO is right now it's very simple. Just for governance, your token utility is like a meme. You just use it for governance. But over here, we're thinking deeply about governance. What Slam just described is a dual structure of a DAO. So within a DAO, you'll have folks that can, let's say, vote on financial decision, ecosystem grants, and IP over the period of time, like after a few years when the product is mature. And then you'll also have a structure of DAO where active gamers would have the ability to decide on things like game characters, maps, things like that. And the voting structure of that will also be different. Like these are some of the, like, I'm going to leak some alpha in terms of discussions we're having. Nothing here is finalized. So they're thinking along the lines of, let's say, the gamers, we have the core of the gamers having innovative governance structure with, let's say, quadratic voting and soul-bound tokens and things like that. Again, we are again exploring this and thinking deeply about this. So that's a nuanced approach towards the DAO, and this DAO will happen over the period of time, not at day one. At day one, I think we are thinking along the lines of a council member, similar to Arbitrum. Please expand on that.
Exactly. So, what does it mean, council member, right? So, at the beginning, when you only start your long journey onto it, you want to have very respected and very experienced people and council of like that kind of people who are gonna decide on different categories where the game content should go, where the for example, for Farcana, as I said, we're in like competitive game, right? That's our kind of approach and the audience that we're looking for. So what is better for such a game than to have esports council, where you have huge names, huge people who actually has amazing experience in their life, who's the founders of biggest esport teams, who is actually ex biggest esport players, who is a world champions, right? So these people can decide how you should, like, what approach you should have to build your own esport division, to build your competitive player base, what they love, what they like, what they not, and then vote on that with like some amount of people who has different experience. Same thing with, as we said, with the game content, right? So I think that will be one of the best ways to do it, and we are strongly working on that actually.
Okay. This makes sense. I think we discussed ecosystem funds, so I want to revisit that topic. And given that we have set the stage for DAOs, ecosystem, airdrop, I think I have to just make sure our audience is aware is now regarding token value accrual. Now this becomes very interesting. So you can use the token for in-game utility, like buying things. But now the essence over here is it's an ecosystem play. It's not just one game play. Like you can still use the token and have fun in the game. You're financializing the fun part. They can also earn Bitcoin prizes if they're really competitive. But the main gist is the way the token accrues value is there's a grand vision. The grand vision is there's an ecosystem. Ecosystem deploys token for different initiatives, brand, marketing, IP creation, more games, bigger ecosystem. And that means more demand for the token.
Infrastructure in the future,
again,
right?
Infrastructure, not financial
Small
advice.
hint.
So small hint. There's L2, L3, whatever. Yeah, and because of that, there's a massive demand that comes through. As the demand increases, the power of the ecosystem fund increases. As the power ecosystem fund increases, you can do this initiatives even more, and there is a circular economy with strong flywheel.
Yes.
So there is dual utility. You have this ecosystem that's exploring, and then you'll have in-game utility. And when you combine these together, I think that's where the crypto Twitter is unclear about what is the token utility. Token utility is in-game utility plus the ecosystem flywheel that you guys are
exactly.
designing.